So here at Superbooth with Andrew from Kilpatrick Audio. Going to check out Carbon. Do you want to introduce the product, Andrew?
Sure, thanks. This is our newest sequencer. It's called Carbon. It's based upon some of the concepts from the K4815 pattern generator, which was our first ever Eurorack module about 5 years ago or so. Carbon takes that sort of grid, 8x8 grid concept, and it takes it to a whole other level. It's basically got 6 tracks. Each track can record polyphony on every step. There's 64 steps per track, and you can record from a MIDI keyboard. It has a USB host built in, so you can support a keyboard like this little nano key here. It's got dual MIDI outs, 1 MIDI in. It's got USB host and device on the back, and it can also send out 4 CV gate pairs plus clock and reset out. So basically, you can sequence a pattern. You can set another track, do a pattern at a different division of the main clock. You can also choose a different length for each pattern or a different start position. And then once you've got a really cool groove going, you can remix it by choosing different gate patterns that are overlaid on top of the notes that you've previously recorded. So this is really great for really getting something happening really fast. You can also use it as a live controller. So if I hit live mode, now the track is muted and then I get to play through the keyboard. There's an arpeggiator on every track, so you can just turn that on and play through it like that. And also, if you're using this to control gear from your computer, let's say you need to have some MIDI and CV gate outputs from your computer, instead of repatching from Carbon when you want to use your DAW, you can just use this as a CV and MIDI interface, a USB interface. So when you turn off the unit, there's a mode where you can leave it working as a performance interface.
Oh, great, so you can actually stop the whole thing but get the 4 CVs and the 4 gates direct out as well.
That's the idea. So it shows up as 4 MIDI outs on your computer and a number of MIDI ins as well. So you get the input, you get the USB host input, and you also get the buttons, which may be useful for someone if they just want to use it to like trigger their DAW, start and stop and things like that. And so the idea is that it can always be in your setup. So if you want to just jam really quickly or just play some of your synths, you can put synths on different tracks and just use it live without having to get involved with the computer. If you want to do a more complicated project, then you can also just use it to route signals through as well. So it's kind of a dual purpose device that way.
Yeah, so you could be running chords on a polysynth or from a DAW with a laptop as well as a CV. Can the different sequences affect each other as well?
Yeah, so what we have is sort of an old school trick where you run a sequencer in a slow tempo, like one step per bar, and you run a faster sequencer and you mix the voltages together to create different chord changes or transpositions within your song. We can do the same thing here where we can have one track acting as a bias track for the other. That's what we call it. So it basically one track transposes another track, which is really cool. If you're not into that kind of an effect, you can also, we have a built-in song mode that lets you sequence a number of scenes. There are scenes that affect all the parameter changes, so you can record different snapshots of all the settings, which pattern, gate pattern you have, a bunch of other settings, and then you can switch between those scenes on the fly, or you can schedule them through the song mode to be able to switch after a certain number of beats, and they can transpose on each step of the song as well. So if you want to just have a song running over and over with changes, and then you're soloing over top, it adds another dimension. It still just loops around and around, but it adds another dimension to the entire thing.
Yeah, so just a huge either studio or performance tool for everything.
Right. The idea is it never stops. Things just keep looping. It's not a beginning to end kind of linear sequencer. The idea is to just get the groove going, and you can do almost every function without ever having to stop the sequencer from running, which is, I spend so long in the studio with computer software, and most of the time everything's silent because I'm setting something up or I'm changing something around. This just lets you get things going and get yourself inspired to make music.
Yeah, so obviously live, that's absolutely crucial.
Absolutely.
As well. But like you said, in the studio, for inspiration and motivation, it's still going.
It's still going. You're hearing it, you're getting some ideas in your mind, and then, and you lay down another track, change things around, and it's, it becomes more of an evolutionary process of making music as opposed to trying to pre-plan things and, configure a lot of stuff, which takes a long time. So that's the idea.
Brilliant. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.